National Movement's Tobago West candidate Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis is calling on Tobagonians to learn from their past experiences. During a political meeting in Buccoo on Wednesday, Mrs. Cudjoe-Lewis accused the Farley Augustine-led Tobago People's Party of unfulfilled promises and stressed that the promises being shared on that campaign trail cannot be trusted.
Promising you after election day is what they should have been delivering anyway. They were here in 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024 and did not deliver. So now at last minute as they walk the community, if they meet an unemployed young man, they're telling them, show up for 10 on, 10 off next week. Looking for votes. We are worth more than that.
Mrs. Cudjoe-Lewis urged Tobagonians to vote on April 28th and warned that choosing to take a chance by voting the Tobago People's Party is not worthwhile.
Nobody can come and tell you, but you ain't seen Tobago. You have lived it. You've seen it. Now it's not the time to experiment, because if you experiment, you have to keep that experiment for the next 5 years. And that is going to be 5 long, hard, turbulent years. So brothers and sisters, use your brain, use your head, and don't get tied up in anybody arrangement who follow them all that they find a way to pay. But we are not selling these 2 seats.
Meanwhile, the Tobago People's Party is describing the People's National Movement's manifesto as last-minute promises. TPP political leader Farley Augustine made those statements while addressing supporters in Castara on Wednesday.
So what were you doing for the last 10 years that you could not implement these same measures that you are now promising us on the cusp of an election? We ain't want no last-minute promise. We ain't want no sweet talk now. The days to sweet talking done. You had 10 years of it. Now we are going to the polls and we are going to vote for David Joseph Thomas in the east and Joel Marcus Sampson in the west.
Mr. Augustine called on Tobagonians to exercise their rights by voting on Monday, noting that parliamentary representation is critical for Tobago.
And I waited on Teche because I like Farley and it's only Farley. No, you have to come out and support Thomas and Sampson because it is important what they do down in Port of Spain. If America coughs, we catch the flu. If Trinidad coughs, we get pneumonia. It's important who we send down there. It's important who represents us there and what voices are heard in the Red House. It's important that your voice is actually represented and articulated there. Because a lot of what you dream of and you want is being held back